Let's go instead to one of the new members of the Peter Dutton Ministry. Live to the Liberal Senator and Shadow Assistant Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Holly Hughes. Thanks very much for your time as we have those pictures of Anthony Albanese. There you go in full flight with Joko Widodo. No stumbles yet, so I'm sure that's the main criteria right now, isn't it? I can't recall the Prime Minister going on a bike ride with another world leader. You might correct me if you do recall that. But let's get into your new area of responsibility. What do you think the general message is from voters at the election on that issue of climate change, which is going to be partly your responsibility?
Yeah, look, there was definitely a focus in the last election around climate change, but I do think as people are going to start to experience more cost of living pressures, particularly when you look at what's happening around the energy market, what's happening around the price of petrol, but also including what's happening day-to-day groceries, that some of those issues are probably going to become less top of mind. I think when people start to look at their electricity bills, when they start to experience inflationary pressures, when they start to see their mortgage rates increase, that some of those issues like climate change might no longer be as determinant in where they place their vote.
I suppose we'll see, and that's to play out over the next 3 years. But right now, we've just had that election. Again, is it important the coalition doesn't ignore it? Not just the Teal seats, you've even lost to the Greens as well. So is that something you need to factor in as well?
Look, I don't think anyone's ignoring it, so that's sort of the wrong take on the way we're looking at this issue. But we have always been focused when we were in government and now that it's about technology. It's about ensuring that the technology catches up because renewables aren't ready yet to take over the baseload affordable power that not only do household needs but also a lot of small businesses. And then if you look at the big smelters, etc., they're unable to be just offline and put back online. So there does need to be that reliable, affordable baseload power. But it's how we get there and how we ensure that that energy is able to be supplied, but also supplied in a way that people can afford to keep running their businesses. So it is important. It's a very important matter, but it's how we deal with it. We're much more interested and always have been in seeing technological advances, whether they be lithium-ion batteries, whether there is a conversation that needs to be held around small modular nuclear and the advances that are occurring there, as opposed to looking at carbon taxes. So
you can argue about the how, but what about the what? Labor's 43% emissions reduction plan by 2030. Do they have a clear mandate to do that?
Well, 32% of Australians voted for the Labor Party. I don't think that's a clear mandate anywhere. It's a two-seat majority that they've got. So it is still...
The coalition's never said that, though, when it's been getting, what, 41% even in good election results. I mean, you've previously said you've had mandates, things for that. The primary vote's a bit misleading, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's 32% of Australians that supported a Labor Party, not 68. 68% of people voted for somebody else. Look, and they are. But if we went down the Greens path, we'd see our economy tanking as soon as they took their seat up on the Treasury benches. And I mean, this is what we need to be very, very mindful of, particularly when we get to the Senate. We don't have a proper makeup yet. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, the Senate, just yet. But the Greens' influence is obviously going to be very concerning to those people who do need reliable, affordable,
on the mandate
baseload power.
Taking what you said to the nth degree means no government will have a mandate for anything.
Well, 32 is a lot lower than 41 when you're talking primary vote as well. So I think there's a significant difference there in the vote.
So 41's a good mandate and 32's not?
Well, I mean, look, we can argue all day over what numbers of mandates are. I'm more interested in their target of 43% because if we remember, Tom, they went into a caucus meeting. Some wanted 40%, some wanted 46%. So, science, let's go with 43%. I think that's much more interesting a number to look at.
That's what they took to the electorate. They won a majority of seats. The Greens won seats. Teal candidate seats wanting more action than that. So I'm just asking what your view is on Labor's 43%.
Well, I think Labor's got the numbers. Labor's got the numbers that they can take it through the House of Representatives. They then need to come to the Senate. And whether the Greens get on board with them in the Senate and what they're proposing is a matter for the Greens. We certainly, in my view, won't be out there looking to increase the emissions reduction target by 2030. As I said, I think it is much more important that we have reliable, affordable baseload power, that we're looking at solutions that are based in technology, that we're leaving those decisions up to scientists, it's not legislated.
Well, a lot of scientists will say what we need to do to avoid worsening climate change is actually more action, so if you talk about scientists. But let me just clarify what you're saying there. So the coalition remains opposed to any increase of the official Australian government target for 2030 emissions reduction.
Tom, I've been in this position less than 24 hours. I can tell you what my view is. I know that there's others in the party that have a different view, and there'll be a discussion that I'm sure is taken going forward around that. But I have said, in my view, we should not be looking to increase, from the Liberal Party's perspective, our emissions reduction target.
So where would that put you in standing now in terms of trying to win back all these Teal seats if you're not budging? A lot of these candidates said, let's go 50-60, Labor's going 43 and you're sticking to 26 to 28. That's a tough task, isn't it?
Yeah, but when you go out and talk to people and say to them, do you support climate change, action on climate change, a lot of people say yes. When you then say to them, and how much are you prepared to pay for it, they don't want to. They don't want it coming out of their own pocket. They've already got cost of living pressures. They've already got looking at increase in mortgage rates. They're already looking at very high prices at the Bowser. So these are the things that are going to make an impact on a budget bottom line of a family.
Wouldn't that mean, though, that you should look at the plan first in detail, see what it would cost in a net sense, and then make an assessment, rather than saying,
well, detail's great.
Any increase in the target?
Well, this stage I don't, because as I said to you, the Labor Party one part wanted 40%, the other part wanted 46%, so science 43%. So until we start to see some detail, I have absolutely no change in my view of the target that we took to the election.
What science was the coalition's target based on?
Well, there was obviously discussions that were held with the ministers at that point in time. This was an opposition strategy when the Labor Party came up between 40 and 46% to land on 43. At the time, there were ministers, Angus Taylor, the Prime Minister, they would have been involved in all of those discussions in coming up with that figure.
Okay, but you're sort of saying science sarcastically to Labor's, your one was a political settlement as well, wasn't it?
Well, it was through discussions with the Minister's office that they then came up with that figure. I don't know what the Labor Party did in their discussions, but we do know that they had two sides, one saying 40, one saying 46, so they compromised on 43.
Okay. It's only early in the job, as you say. We'll talk again, no doubt, when your feet are under the desk and things are more progressed. But Holly Hughes, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Tom.